And we're live for another TNT Entrepreneur Education session here during Summit 7. We are very excited to be talking about a very timely topic. Everybody seems to be discussing this one. What's going on in AI and how do you integrate that into your business workflow? That's going to be what we're discussing today. And who better to discuss that with than the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute? And we are very pleased today to have two representatives from AMII join us. We've got Adam and Deborah. And Adam came to AMII from Startup Edmonton, also worked with the government of Alberta for many years and has been a policy analyst in economic development and trade, and is now working at AMII, supporting, engaging, and growing the startup community in Alberta. And we're very excited to have him, and I'll pass the floor to him in just 1 second. But first, I want to introduce Deborah, who's a machine learning project manager with the advanced tech team at AMII. And she's managed a variety of different technology projects in various industry verticals, including IT, manufacturing, oil and gas, and healthcare. She's also an engineering grad and has got her PMP and PMI ACP designation. So we've got some very astute individuals here today to talk to us about AI, and I'll let them introduce a little bit more about themselves and what AMII does now. So Adam, why don't we go to you first, and you can say hi to everybody and walk us through what AMII does.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jesse. Hey, everybody. My name is Adam, and I'm the product owner of startups at AMII. So my team, we work with startups of all different shapes and sizes to help them see how AI machine learning can be applied to their business. So we can help you if you've never incorporated AI at all and you're at the very early stages of seeing how it can be applied to your business, all the way through you to having deployed machine learning where you're maybe an ML first startup. We can help you along that whole spectrum. And so very excited to be here today. I'm going to drop two links into the chat. So the first one is for our AI conference, Upper Bound, which is happening in 2 weeks from the 23rd to the 26th of May. There's still some tickets available for it, for some of our keynotes and for our party. And then I also dropped a link to our website, to the AMII's website. So feel free to check it out. Feel free to reach out as well. I'll drop my email in later on. Feel free to reach out to me or connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat. And I can, maybe a little bit about what AMII does. I should probably do that too. So so we're the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, and really what we do is twofold. We fund fundamental research in the areas of AI and machine learning, predominantly at the University of Alberta, and then we work with industry to help translate that research into industry adoption. So we work with all different types of companies, everything from small scale startups to mom and pop shops, to medical professionals, to oil and gas companies and large multinationals, and everything in between, to help them explore how AI and machine learning can impact their business and drive business value for them. But I'll turn it over to Deborah to chat a little bit about herself and the advanced technology team.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Deborah. I work with the advanced tech team at AMII. We work with clients who are further along on their AI adoption journey, for longer term projects between like 4 months to 12 months or more, to help them understand or define their machine learning problem and help them find solutions to solve it with the research that we have. We have a team of scientists that do an amazing job at helping you define your machine learning problem and solve it. So whatever spectrum or wherever you are in your adoption journey, we help you move forward. Yeah. And I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those introductions, telling us a little bit more about AMII. So let's start with the basics, right? We say AI, we say machine learning. Like what does this actually mean, right? And in particular, maybe you want to speak to the AI's buzzword has been thrown around a lot more here lately. With the arrival of ChatGPT and other creative content generating platforms. What sort of, we'll get into it in a minute, but what is sort of different about AI now? Like, is there something different about it? Maybe kind of unpack that for us a little bit more. We'll start with Adam.
Sure. Yeah. So AI and machine learning are both subsets of the broader study called computer science. Computer science has been around for well over 100 years. AI has been around since around the kind of World War I, World War II time. And really what AI and artificial intelligence is trying to build computers that replicate the way humans think. And machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. So it's a subdiscipline, and it's really focused on creating machines that learn and improve over time. And so that's the main difference there between the two. So you kind of think of like computer science as the big circle. Inside it is AI, and inside of that is machine learning. And another term that's often used around this area too is data science. And data science kind of spans all those different areas. And it's not just in computer science, but it has a huge influence over computer science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, but it also is outside of that field as well. So it's kind of like a Venn diagram that goes over all of them. Deborah, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think you pretty much covered it.
Perfect. And what was the rest of your question, Jesse?
Well, just thinking about now, right? So you've got these sort of new AI platforms, as people are calling them, right? And it's kind of freaking people out. One of the godfather of machine learning recently came out and said, like we're all headed for Skynet and Terminator. But what is different now about these platforms, or is there even really that big of a difference, or is it just more of an evolution of the existing technology? Deborah, I don't know, maybe you want to answer this one as an engineer.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, like Adam said, it's been around for a long time. So it's like OpenAI has made it more accessible to everybody. So like there's a rave about ChatGPT, everybody's using it. Prior to this time, AI has been within the confines of large technology companies. And because it's very expensive to implement, it's not accessible to everybody. But with platforms like ChatGPT, everybody has access to AI. Now we know the things that AI can do for us. So people are asking questions. They're more interested in what can AI do? What more can I use AI to do? Or they are also worried about, is AI going to take over my job? Am I going to become redundant because these platforms are doing things that I typically do? So it's like, now that it's more accessible, there are more questions and there's a lot more interest, but it's not like it's new, it's been there, but it's just become more popular. There's so many platforms beyond ChatGPT that allow people access to explore with AI and just build models or put in their data and then spin up stuff. So I think it's more open now. That's what I would say the difference is.
Love that. And anything to add on that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that we are all been interacting with AI and machine learning every single day for years, and you might not even know it. There's countless ways that you interact with it every single day, whether it's your spam filter in your email account or your Netflix recommended list. There's countless ways where we're already interacting with it. It's just kind of been in the background and not as visible to the end user. And I think things like ChatGPT, Midjourney, these types of tools are definitely more out in the open. And I think what's interesting is that they're now starting to do tasks that we tend to think as tasks that humans are better at. And so things like writing and art, those are traditionally tasks that we've thought were solely in the realm of human ability. And I think that's where people are, why it's becoming so in the common zeitgeist right now is because it's starting to do things that we didn't think it would be able to do, that we thought were just in the realm of humans, which is very interesting. It's definitely, I can understand why it's becoming more and more in the common conversation. But I think when it comes to anything, AI is a tool, and humans build tools to make their lives easier and to influence the world around them. And AI is just another one of those tools. So it's not about how is it going to replace anybody. It's about how are we going to be able to leverage these tools to make our lives better and to make to be able to do even more than we're able to do right now.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great summary, and I think that really helps set the table here. Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that question there, by the way, Alicia. Thanks for posting that comment. And I also saw another comment earlier about how to integrate. We'll get to that in just a minute. But First, I wanted to kind of double click on Deborah's point you made there about other tools that are out there, and like ChatGPT and Midjourney, as Adam just mentioned, are definitely, you know, some of the top ones that are being talked about. But what other ways can AI be utilized in say, an individual worker's workflow, but also within a business's workflow, like a startup that's trying to build out a product? And Deborah, we'll start with you, and we'll go to Adam.
So there's so many ways to look at it. It depends, but I'll come from the spectrum of what problem are you trying to solve with AI. So that's the first question. So there's so many tools, right? But you need to define your problem first. And then based on your definition of what your problem is, you can determine what tool is most appropriate for this problem. So like the way we approach machine learning projects at AMII, we start with a business understanding and problem discovery. So we would analyze your problem and try to understand what kind of question can machine learning solve or answer, what kind of answer can we get from machine learning? And then it's also based on what kind of data do you have. If you understand your data or your market, you can now begin to understand what kind of question can machine learning answer with this data that I have. Of course, they are off-the-shelf tools, but there are limitations in that some of them require like expertise. Some of them are extremely expensive. So what are you trying to build first? And then what do I currently have? Not all problems require machine learning. There are problems that you can already solve with the tools that you have. If you have an accounting software, you have an ERP solution, you might be able to solve those problems using those. But if it goes beyond, if you have like, for instance, if you have a customer base and you're related with your customer, you're gathering data, you've been gathering data for a while, you can leverage that data that you have and build that something, or to understand your client better and be able to provide them better solutions. So I think it's beyond just a specific tool. There are tools, but what's your problem? So when you come from the lens of understanding what your problem is, and then you can know what kinds of tools in AI can help you solve those problems that you have.
Great way to think about it. Yeah, Adam, any extra thoughts there on how to think about integrating? And maybe we want to just to take the next step. Is there a framework that we can use, or that AMII, you know, talks about with your clients or startups that you're working with, on how to go through that exercise that Deborah was just talking about, of sort of analyzing your business and finding where you can plug in an AI solution or a machine learning solution?
Yeah, for sure. So I think Deborah did a great job explaining, you know, starting with a problem rather than a solution. And oftentimes, you know, we hear a lot about, you know, how can I use ChatGPT in my business? And I think that is the completely wrong question to be asking. I think you should be trying to figure out what problem you're trying to solve, and then, like Deborah said, and then see which solution is the right solution for that problem. You know, if a screwdriver just got invented and you saw a screwdriver for the first time, you wouldn't walk around saying, what can I screw with my screwdriver? You'd be looking to figure out what problem you have and if a screwdriver is the right tool for that problem. You're not going to walk around and try and screw a nail in, because that's just not the right tool for the job. So it's starting with the problem and how that problem is going to be solving that problem is going to drive business value for you is what's really important. When it comes to seeing how AI can be applied to your business, we have a program for startups here at AMII that we put startups through. It's called Machine Learning Explorations. And through that program, over the course of 5 weeks, we do one workshop a week. And we start with, you know, what is machine learning? What can it do? What can't it do? Principles of responsible AI and business use cases in startups. Then we get the companies to look at their business. Where are those opportunities inside their business where AI could potentially be applied? Really, where are those pain points that you're seeing internally? And oftentimes for startups, it's what are the pain points that your customer is facing? And yeah, I see someone asking for the link. I'll grab that. Yeah. Pull that up right here. And so from there, then we look at the business side, and then we help translate those business opportunities into machine learning questions and help evaluate those using a risk value matrix. And then we map them out on our AI opportunity map. So we help people go from, I know I need to do AI, but I'm not sure where to start, all the way to you having a couple options that you could start working towards building a solution around. So yeah, feel free to check that out. We're going to be opening up. We run it quarterly. We do a free public cohort every quarter. We just closed applications for our next cohort, but we'll be opening applications again very soon for our next cohort, which will be running in July. So there's an expression of interest form on the website right now. So if you put your name and email in there, you'll be first on the list to be notified when that application goes in.
Yeah, I think we might just get a flood of folks. Everybody's going to be jumping in there from the session. That does sound amazing, like an amazing program. Curious, people were asking about examples. Like, do you have an example? I know obviously you know you've got some confidentiality you got to maintain, but if you can sanitize and give us some examples potentially of how you've integrated or how you've gone through that process with a startup and were able to identify some particular areas that they could utilize AI. Adam or Deborah, you can jump in, whichever one has an idea right off the hop.
I mean, there are different teams at AMII that work with different clients at whatever level that you are. So there's we have like AI initiation and planning that allows you to discuss your problem. So what are your pain points? What are you trying to automate? You just have those conversations, and then we dive deep into your problem, understand your problem, and give you like a roadmap for how you can use AI to solve those problems. And it can be anything. I mean, again, it depends on the kind of data that you have. And there are different teams. At the Advanced Tech team, we have different programs. We have internships and residencies where we help you train AI talent to solve your particular problem. So there's somebody assigned to your problem that focuses on your problem, not just uncovers your data, understands your problem, and we iterate at different points. If based on your data, we understand that you can answer a different question with machine learning, we are happy to pivot and just keep exploring that opportunity. We have like brainstorming sessions where we just allow you to explain yourself, and then we, based on that, perfect different solutions. So there's so many different approaches that you can use to uncover the problems that you have and use AI to solve them. Adam, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah. Or just like I know there's so many, but like let's just pick one. Like, what's a particular example maybe that folks aren't like thinking about? And obviously, everyone's thinking about the ChatGPT, Midjourney, that sort of stuff. But where's a unique example, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, when we work with through the ML Exploration Program, we worked with over 50 startups last year, or around 50 startups that went through that program, and it's everything from looking at crops to identify weeds, to pulling out optical character recognition, where you're able to feed a document through and pull out pieces of content from a document that you're putting in, computer vision problems where you're using pictures or video and you're identifying things in there. And that could be, there's countless applications of that, whether you're a security business or you're wanting to track something to do with safety, or even like that crop identification. There are tons of ways in which we've looked at how AI can be applied to startups. Every single industry vertical too, like you can imagine. We've worked with companies that are involved in everything from oil and gas to supply chain to fintech to engineering and space travel and everything. So it's kind of everything you can imagine. Every business can have AI applied to in some way, and really AI and machine learning it's a prediction tool. So it takes in large amounts of data and makes a prediction based on that. So anytime that you're making a prediction in your business is potentially an opportunity where AI or machine learning could be applied.
I like that. Yeah. Just quickly, question in the chat: what stage of startups are you working on that?
Yeah. So typically, for our ML Exploration Program, the ideal startup candidate for that is a company that has a product in market, and is already collecting data of some sort, or at least has a very well tested minimum viable product built out. So you need to be well past the ideation and the customer validation stage. We're looking for companies that are kind of at that, probably like at the stage, like if you're in Edmonton, we have Edmonton Unlimited, so coming out of like the Propel program is typically a good size here, or in Calgary and Edmonton coming out of the Velocity program for the pre-accelerated there. I'm not sure if there's similar programs in some
we
of the
have
other
Co-Launch
provinces.
and Start here in Saskatchewan
Yeah.
with the 2 incubators. North Forge has some very early stage programming as well as MTA out of Manitoba. So it sounds to me like, that very early stage is you're sort of building out your startup. The earlier, I'm guessing the earlier you can start thinking about it and integrating it from the beginning, then you don't have to kind of go back and correct code. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Better.
I think the biggest thing too is like the earlier you can start thinking about it and thinking about what you eventually want to build on the AI side allows you to start collecting the right data as soon as possible. So when it comes to AI machine learning, having the right data and enough data are really, really critical pieces of setting up a strong and effective system. And so we meet with some of the startups we've met with. They go through our program. They know exactly what they want to build, but they haven't been collecting any data. Like they have an app or they have something that customers are using, but they're not tracking what's happening in the app. They're not tracking where people are clicking. They're not tracking how long people are spending on pages. They're not tracking things that when now you want to build a system to recommend something to somebody within your app, say you're selling products and you want to have something similar to Amazon's recommender system where it says, hey, people who bought this also bought these types of things. If you're not collecting data on what transactions are happening and doing that, you're not going to be able to build that system. So having that data early is really important. But it's also really important to know to be very careful when you're collecting personal data and things like that. It's very important to be very careful with your data, make sure you're collecting the right data and you're not over collecting either, because that can also be a problem. So collecting the right data, not the wrong data, and collecting it in the right format. Because another thing we like to say is when it comes to machine learning systems, if you have garbage in, so garbage data going into your system, you're going to get garbage out. So you want to make sure you're doing a good job with your data collection and thinking about it as early as possible.
Awesome. That's a really great point. We got a question there in the chat. Maybe we'll go to Deborah here because this is where you work with a lot of companies thinking about AI and getting that data set up. Like, how do you help companies think about what is the right data, right? Like, are they tracking everything? Is there a way to get more efficient with it and get the right set of data? How do you work with the companies to help them figure out that problem, Deborah?
Yeah, so when we start machine learning projects, the first thing we do is to evaluate the data. For some clients, they don't already have sufficient data and they may need to continue to collect that data. So we help them define what kind of data do you need, in what format, how much data do you need for this problem? Is it a problem that you can solve with minimal data, or is it one that requires large amounts of data? Most times with machine learning, you require a lot of data, but it's not just about the quantity, like Adam says, it's about the quality of the data. If it's in the right format, if it's in the right, what's the word now? So if you're collecting data for like a computer vision project, you're collecting images and videos, what's the quality, what's the size, what's the format of that, and how can you collect more of that? And then again, what kinds of labels do your images have? So if you're doing a supervised learning problem, that you have to have the right labels. If it's like a cat or a dog, for instance, this is just like an instance that I'm using, and you have more cats than dogs, it means that at a point your model is going to start to overfit and you're not able to generalize to new data. So it might work at this point, but then when you get new data, you're not getting as much accuracy as you got when you were building that model. So it's like having a balanced data set that takes into account everything that you are all the questions that you're trying to answer, and making sure that everything is proportionate and you have as much as possible, because you're going to train and test and validate. So you don't want to train a model and you don't have enough data to test it or to validate that it's working. And then when you put it in a real world scenario, then there's a problem. So you have to make sure that you have vast amounts of data as much as possible and quality data that are labeled appropriately to be able to give you the kind of results that you're looking for.
Yeah. Was there like a series of questions? That's a great answer, Deborah. I appreciate that. Is there, or you want to add answer this, Deborah. Is there like a series of questions you ask startups
Yes.
to go through in order to like determine answers to those questions?
Yes, we have. So we have like a template that we send out to clients to ask them. So we organize a session called Domain and Data 101. Domain and Data 101 is all things data. We're trying to understand your data. But before you come into that session, having gone through a standard template that we send you that has so many questions about understanding your data. What are your objectives? What are so very tiny questions like formats, like quantity, quality, how do you process your data, where do you store them? There's so many questions in that template. I think it's about 4 or 5 pages that you're able to answer. So if you're able to go through all those questions before the Domain and Data 101, you come into that session prepared to answer questions about your data. And that also gives us an insight. So you send that document to us prior to that session. We go through it. So we're coming in with very similar understanding. And then if we have any more questions to ask you, we're able to talk through it and then advise you on what are the next steps, if you're good, or there are other things that you need to do to collect more data or refine the data that you already have.
Yeah, and then I know when it comes to AI systems, being able to be transparent and explainable is something that is becoming more and more important. And so something like we use a couple of different tools here at AMII in all of our projects to make sure that everything that we build is explainable and transparent. And so some of those tools that we leverage here are data sheets for data sets. And so in that, it's basically an overview of the person or people or team that is responsible for the data, how it was collected, what went into it, what's happening to it, has it been transformed, has it been adjusted, and really like an overview of everything that is needed to be known about that data set. We also use model cards. So this is a overview of everything that went into building the algorithm or the model that is in people's heads, but to get it written down so that if that person leaves the team or something happens later, something needs to be adjusted, you know what went into it and why things were built in the way they were built. And we also leverage, the government of Canada has a really great algorithmic assessment tool that we leverage as well to see how the algorithm is going to impact different individuals, different and different people, and people in general, because at the end of the day, most of these systems are impacting people in some way, whether it's directly or tangentially. And so these are really important tools that we leverage here and that everybody should be leveraging in order to help make sure that their data, they understand what's going into their data, they understand how the system is working and how it's going to be impacting people.
Yeah, sorry, I just saw the question in the chat. I'll get to that in a second. I believe everything should be on our YouTube page, but I'll check in on that. Thank you. This is great. I think a lot of people would love to see those questions, or at the very least, they should come through your program so they can get access to that. Thinking about training or educating your staff, what resources are available to and what sort of training do you think is necessary for a startup or even a company that's a little later on to properly work with and integrate AI tools?
Yeah, I can jump in here first. So I think
sure.
that it really depends. Yeah, I think it really depends on how you're thinking about AI. So are you looking at using a tool like ChatGPT? Like I have ChatGPT open on my computer. If you think about it like that, or are you thinking about how can AI be implemented and integrated into your product offer? I think those are two very different answers. When it comes to using tools, it's understanding what tools are available, understanding how the tool works. And I think for some of these tools as well, for all tools, it's important to understand and think about what data you're giving tool, where that data is going, how it's being used, and then what you're getting back. So like for ChatGPT, for example, it's like, are you putting people's personal information into ChatGPT? Do you know where that data is going? Do you know what's happening to it once you send it to OpenAI? Those are like, I'm not 100% sure. I'm by no means an expert on the back end of the tool, but these are questions that individual people need to be thinking about when you're incorporating these types of tools into your personal workflow. It's like, what's happening to it? I think something also to think about when it specifically with ChatGPT is there's no fact checking in ChatGPT. So when you Google a question, you're going to get maybe a couple of different answers in the first page. You can kind of skim through and see, oh, maybe there isn't consensus on what the answer to this question is. ChatGPT just gives you one answer. So you don't know if it's right. You don't know if it's wrong. You're blindly trusting the system and assuming that it's right. It might be, or it might not be. So it's thinking about these types of things when you're integrating those tools into your own personal workflow. But when you're looking at how can AI be applied to your business, I think the biggest thing for companies to think about there is increasing the AI literacy of everybody in your organization. And so how can we break down the silos between technical teams, non-technical teams? How can we help those two teams speak together and work together to drive business value for the organization? And that's what we really try and push on the startup team. So for that ML exploration program I mentioned, it works best when we have both the technical and the non-technical people in the room working together through that program. They're able to say, here's what's going to drive business value for us, but here's what we're actually able to do and what our system is able to do now, what we're able to build together. So bringing those groups together is really important when it comes to how AI can be applied to the business. There's lots of resources available online when it comes to AI and machine learning. We have some great resources in-house too. We have a machine learning foundations workshop that's open to anybody. We run that every month. We have an ML tech program where people who want to upskill and move into a career in AI and ML development, people who have some technical skills, maybe they're working in the oil field and want to reskill into AI. We have those types of programs. So we have more advanced programming as well on Coursera and other places as well. So like we have great resources here at AMII. There's lots of books. There's lots of really great resources available in other places as well.
Yeah. And Deborah, do you maybe want to like dive into more? Let's think about more like what technical skills do you need on your team in terms of like developers and the like in order to properly integrate AI into your software platform or your product. Right? What do you need to be looking for in terms of potential employees if you're thinking of having AI being a key part of your startup?
Right. It's important to have the right kind of AI talent. Is very scarce, and it's difficult to recruit AI talent because they're harder to find. When you do find them, another company is poaching them. But it's like for us, we work with scientists mostly. So people that have an academic background in computer science, that understand the research part of AI. We don't work with software developers, but for a company that is looking to integrate AI, you need software developers, you need testers, you need people that have not just research skills, but are able to integrate AI with your workflow. So you need mostly people that have like a computer science background, but developers as well or you need machine learning engineers, not just scientists, because you're building something now, you're integrating something, you're not just writing code. So you're able to, people that can take the code and deploy it into your environment. So those are kind of skills, technical skills that you need. You also need like people that do quality control, that can understand what has been built and ensure that it doesn't break when it's been deployed and when it starts to be used. And then you need to have, if you're not leveraging any cloud technologies, your data center has to be such that you have GPUs that have large capacity to carry the volume of workload that you're going to be bringing into the system, depending on the kind of solution that you are offering. So you need to build out a data center that works for your solution and doesn't break as you scale, because you want to be able to scale at some point. If it's a solution that people are using increasingly, you have to build that into developing a data center. But those things are quite expensive. So most people try to leverage cloud technologies like Microsoft Azure, GCP, or Amazon Cloud Services. People mostly would leverage that. Those are easier to scale and to just add on different things rather than continuously expanding a data center. So you need to build out all those skills, and you need to have people in-house that can use whatever tools that you're providing.
Awesome. That's great. I think that really covers the full scale here of where people can get knowledge to get training and education and what you need on your teams. Thinking about, the cloud computing and integrating into other systems and, and also bringing in outside tools into your company like ChatGPT, which has data sets. There's obviously some security concerns to keep in mind there. What should startups be thinking about when they're thinking about AI, data set security, and especially utilizing third-party tools? Maybe we'll start with Deborah on this one, and we'll go to Adam.
I mean, so AI governance is a thing. Companies need to start building up policies around the use of AI within their companies. Those policies will guide you to not make mistakes. Again, like when you're thinking about taking advantage of AI, what kinds of data do you have? And how do you protect that data from being, so we're already giving out so much of our data, right? But for a company, it's different because you can be sued, right? So what kind of data do you have? Are they data, for instance, if it's personal medical records, right? Do you have the authority to use that data? Have you gone through the right compliance and checked off all the lists? What's the policy regarding that kind of data? How can it be used? You have the authority to use it. Is it data that you need to anonymize to use, right? So those are questions that you start to ask yourself, and then building out policies in AI governance and developing like ethical skills around that. How do you use, what's the best use of the kind of data that you have? And it's not something that would affect the environment negatively. And then what kind of problem are you trying to solve? Is it a problem that is going to create more problems in the future, or a problem that is actually going to eradicate problems in the future? So how are you using AI? Are you using AI in a responsible way, or are you using AI in a way that affects everybody negatively? So there are policies to build out and steps to take to ensure that AI is being used for good, and the data that you have is also being used for the right thing. I hope that answers your question. Was there anything else?
Yeah, I think that covers it mostly, but just maybe wanting to think about, like, Adam, maybe you want to dive in on this, is security around data sets, putting your data in third-party AI tools. Is there some concerns here, especially also communicating maybe back with your clients on how you're protecting their information and making sure it's not, getting out to the wrong people? You want to speak to that, Adam?
Yeah, I think security, especially when it comes to people's data, is incredibly important. We've seen, I don't even know how many data breaches over the past few years. Feels like every day there's, this company got breached, that company got breached. And it, that type of, when that happens, it can really impact a business, and it can really cause your customers to lose trust in you. And so it's something that every business owner everybody who works at a company should be taking incredibly seriously, and making sure that you're leveraging the best security that you can, that you're up to compliance standards and all of those different aspects, because it could directly impact your business, and it could directly impact the trust that your customers have in you. And trust is hard to build, and it's easy to lose. So you don't want to lose that. So it's definitely something that is incredibly important. And I think it's incredibly important, even more so when you're talking about things like Deborah mentioned, like medical data. There's not only are you losing trust, but there are very strict regulations around how that type of data can be used, for sure in Alberta, and I'm sure it's very similar in other provinces, in terms of how that type of data is being used. So it's very important. Definitely something that should be top of mind whenever you're collecting any type of data.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's quite important. And since we're kind of on that topic, like, how do you communicate like your utilization of an AI tool and how that's all working to your clients and stakeholders? Especially, I mean, I think some of these startups are trying to plug into large enterprises and provide them with solutions. Obviously, larger enterprises have more concerns around on data security and privacy and making sure it doesn't fall into the hands of their competitors. So how do you discuss that with your startups that you're working with, or how do you like to think about how the communication strategy around AI?
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll leave it there.
Yeah, like when we are leveraging AI tools and how we're like internally, is that what you're asking about?
No, I'm saying like how do you communicate like how do you properly make sure that your users and stakeholders on your startup that you're saying, okay, we've got this AI tool. How do you make sure that they understand that, this like where this data is going to go, like how should we be messaging, how should we be talking about it, selling it to ensure that that the users are feeling comfortable and that you're not gonna, scare them.
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge. I think it comes back to like what I mentioned at the start is understanding if you're leveraging a third party tool. Like if you're building the tool in house, you know exactly what's going on. So it's easy to be able to understand what's happening in a system that you've built. When you're plugging into a third party tool, it's important to do your research, figure out where things are going, who owns the company that owns this tool that you're using, what are what's their goals, what's their history. Doing your research into those things is very important. It's in the same way that it is for any aspect of your business. Like if you're going to be hiring a lawyer, you're going to do some research on the lawyer to make sure that they're reputable. You're not just going to, go to the phone book and call the first person that's listed as lawyer and give them all your business because they're representing you in your business. And so I think it comes back to the same thing with any of these types of tools or partnerships that you'd be leveraging is making sure that you understand what's happening with them and that that you trust them. So at the end of the day, if you're putting your business on the line by leveraging a tool, it's on you. Like it's your business, and you need to be confident that what's happening is in the best interest of your business and the best interest of your customer.
Great answer. Love that. Okay, we got about 15 minutes left here. What like thinking about the actual integration, Deborah, like so you start doing that, you've gone through say some of those question periods, and you've identified how they want to integrate it. What are sort of the key challenges and things of like actually implementing these AI solutions into your company, and how do you go about trying to mitigate those challenges?
I mean, some of the challenges will be lack of expertise. If a company is trying to do it by themselves and they do not have like the necessary talent in-house to implement that, then it can be a problem. If you're trying to leverage an off-the-shelf AI application that you do not have the expertise for, you can get into problems around usage and how to take it from the level where you already have it to actually integrating it. Another thing is cost. AI talent is expensive, and especially for startups, if you do not have like the right funding, you might not be able to afford the kind of talent that you need to push your solution beyond where it is. There are also security concerns, like we have mentioned earlier, around how to ensure that your solution is in a way that your data is protected and your solution is also protected. Because one of the advantages of using AI tools is that you get the competitive advantage, especially if your competition is not already doing what you're doing. So how do you ensure that this solution that you have built is not being you're starting early and you're pushing forward as quickly as possible? And there's also the question of explainability. Most people don't trust AI that they don't understand. They know that AI models do things, but most people want to understand how AI is actually doing these things. So if your model is explainable, it's easier to build trust or gain trust, especially if you're working in a client-facing environment that you have people that are going to use this tool. So they want to be able to understand how maybe their data is being used and how the solution is being built. So it's like, but again, if you're deferring your decisions to a tool, you also want to know like how it works, where your data is going, what the policies around it is. So like those are like some of the challenges that you will have, and especially with expertise. So I think that's like one of the biggest, because some of the clients that we work with, we build our models and they do not have the technical know-how to integrate it, right? And we work in proof of concept land, so we're more of like building out a model for you and you having the expertise to integrate it. So if you don't have like machine learning engineers or software developers that have that expertise, then you can run into problems. Those are kind of problems that we have seen with the projects that we've deployed.
Yeah, that's great. I agree that this technical challenge can be quite difficult. Adam, do you have any other challenges, and maybe you want to speak to how do you find that technical expertise? Is there particular places they can go to try to find maybe an early student coming out of a particular university or something like that?
Yeah, sure. It's the talent one is always a challenge. I think that it has been a challenge for a while. I mean, as tough as the last few months have been for the tech community around the world when it comes to layoffs, if you're hiring, there's more talent available today than there was maybe 6 months ago, because there's been so many layoffs in the tech community around the world. So that's not to say that it's abundant, but it might be a little bit easier today than it was 6 months ago. Just trying to find a little silver lining in the past 6 months, but it's trying to figure out exactly what you need, and then identifying where that type of talent is and where it comes from. And so we at AMII, we have a talent network of around 600 students that are in our talent pipeline. And so we work to support them, to help build them up, provide them professional development, provide them integrated learning opportunities while they're students. And then Deborah's team runs our intern resident program, where they go and find, when they're working with a client who has a specific need and something they need built out, they go and hire somebody who has the right skill set for that project. So they recruit them, they hire them, they onboard them, they professionally develop and train them and support them during the time that they're working on that client's project. And then the client has the opportunity to hire that person at the end if they're the right fit for their team and they want to continue working with that person. We've seen that happen quite a few times, and it's very successful. And so, leveraging resources that are available out there is great. Understanding what your needs are, and also understanding that you're probably not going to find one person that can do everything. You might need to hire a couple of different people. When you understand, when you have a project, finding someone who can do all of the AI and machine learning, from development to front end to back end to integration to ML ops once it's deployed, that's going to be very, very, very difficult. And if you can find that person, they're going to be very expensive. So you might need to break that up into different types of roles, and look for people who are more specialized in subsets of that, to build that out for you. So I think that's probably the best I can give for that answer. It's the U of A we're an incredible school here in Edmonton, and we have incredible talent that's trained up and comes out of our school here. But there are lots of schools across the country and around the world that have great AI programs and are training up really incredible students. So building relationships with those types of institutions, with some of the professors, with other AI institutes. AMII is one of the AI institutes in Canada, but there's also MILA in Montreal and the Vector Institute in Toronto. Tying in and getting connected in with people in the community across the country and around the world, I think would be a great step in order to help identify where that talent is and get access to that talent when you need it.
Yeah, that's great. I know U of A is considered one of the centers of excellence, not just in Canada, but around the world, in AI. So for those here in the Prairie, it's definitely the closest port of call for AI. We got Toronto and Montreal, but let's keep it out west here and head over to Edmonton to find your AI talent. Just quick, we're getting near the end of the session here. I just want to touch on it maybe quickly. Ethical considerations here. Is there, people are freaking out about AI, is that something you guys talk about at AMII at all? And what should startups be keeping in mind when thinking about sort of the ethical side of AI? We'll do Deborah first, and then we'll go to Adam.
Yeah, the ethical part of AI is very important because you want to build system that work for everybody. So you don't want a system that is biased against a particular group of people. You want some, so like in gathering your data, of course, you also want to make sure that your data is balanced. That's what, like I said earlier, you want a balanced data set that takes into account different scenarios and everybody that you might be building for. So if you know who you're building for, you know that you ensure that your data is tailored to those people that you're building for, and it is balanced, and it does not discriminate against a particular group of people based on anything. And then fairness, you want to be fair. You want the solution that you're providing to be fair for everybody, and you also want it to be accurate. So, and everything ties at the end of the day to your data, how you're collecting your data, what kinds of data you're collecting. It's those are like some of the considerations around the regulation: bias, fairness, accuracy. Adam, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you covered a lot there. Those are definitely the big considerations. I think going back to some of those, there's tools that you can build in, like I mentioned earlier, whether it's those data sets for data sheets, model cards, algorithmic assessment tools. There's lots of tools and ways that you can help ensure that you're reducing bias, increasing fairness and accuracy, and increasing that openness and transparency in the systems as well. I think that's really important. We have a whole AI ethics workshop that we run, and we have a principled AI policy and work that we've launched as well, to really take these types of things into consideration in every aspect of our work here, all the way from contracting, all the way through every piece of our work. We leverage the UN Sustainable Development Goals as part of our when we're looking at contracting, to make sure that any client we take on and what they're trying to build out is aligned with our mission of AI for good and for all. And so that's really fundamental to how we do business here at AMII. And the clients that we work with and the projects that we take on, it all has to come back to that AI for good and for all. And if it's not aligned with that, then we don't work with that partner. We're comfortable saying that there's types of AI that we are not comfortable working on, and that we don't think AI should be applied to. And so it's a really fundamental piece of everything that we do here. And I think that's going to become more and more important. It's something that everybody who's working in AI and machine learning should be thinking about, is how is the system you're building impacting people? Because at the end of the day, everything that we do impacts people in some way, and keeping that in mind is very important in everything that we do, and everything that anybody that's leveraging AI in their business should be taking into consideration.
Love that. Yeah, AI for good. Absolutely important. I mean, I'm not looking forward to a world with Skynet. I don't know about you, but yeah, I'd much rather have like some sort of utopian future where AI is making us all better. There's only a few minutes left here. Just maybe one final question is, what do you recommend the startup founders do with the AI tools that are out there? That in terms of like how should they think about trying to figure out whether or not they should be using them? You've got any sort of last piece of advice on these AI tools, and how should they? Yeah, go ahead.
I think my only advice is thinking back to one of the first things Deborah mentioned at the top, is it's important to start by thinking about what problem you're trying to solve, and then figuring out what tool can be used to solve that problem. Not looking at saying, I have a solution, what problem can this solve for me? Starting with the problem that you have and then figuring out what the right tool for that problem is. And if that's AI, if that's ChatGPT, if that's Midjourney, if that's building your own AI system, or if it's finding the hammer to hit the nail in, finding the right tool for the problem and the job you're trying to do is really what's the most important thing, and not trying to force something into your business that doesn't make sense. Everything that we do that we push for here at AMII is driving business value for you. And so if it's not going to be driving business value for you, sometimes these types of sometimes something can be a big distraction and really distract you from your ultimate goal as an organization. So making sure that you know what you're trying to do, the problem you're trying to solve for your customer, and then finding the right tool to do that for you is ultimately what I think is the most important thing, regardless of what the type of tool is.
Love that. Yeah, fundamentals haven't changed just because AI is here. You're still trying to hone in on that problem. Deborah, any
Exactly.
final piece of advice?
I mean, you can work with AMII. We can help you on whatever level or stage that you are in your AI adoption journey. We have so many tools that can help you. So you can just reach out to us and we can make your life easier for sure.
Love that. So with that, why don't you post your contact information there in the chat? Let's get those links in there again. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time today. Thank you so much to Adam and Deborah. Let's give them a round of applause. That was awesome. Love the reaction buttons, as you can always see. There you go. Woo! Clap. Love it. Yeah, learned a ton. And I'm excited. I know myself, I've been integrating ChatGPT. In fact, a lot of the questions that I was asking today came from ChatGPT originally. I was like, seemed most appropriate to ask, hey, I'm going to have a session on integrating AI. What questions should I ask? And it gave me a bunch. And then I kind of reworked them. And we ended up with the questions we ended up with today. So yeah, lots of ways to use various AI tools. And I'm excited to see what everybody here around the table comes up with as we move forward here into a new era.
Thanks so much for having us, Jesse, and the whole startup TNT team. It was awesome. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Deborah. So great to learn from you both today. And thank you, AMII, for partnering with us on this session. We're very excited to see what the new era of AI is going to do. And with that, we're at the 1 hour mark. So we're going to end it there. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Hope to see you at the TNT happy hours tonight in all 5 Prairie cities.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Bye.